You don't even care that I'm having a bad day. Why do you always try to see the bright side of things? That's so pointless and stupid. Sure, go ahead and read your book. You could be spending time with me, Do these phrases sound familiar to you? And this after you have spent countless hours trying to support them and help them, trying to be there for them. You see, grandiose narcissists, they cross physical boundaries. They overstep your personal space and they'll hit you physically. They shoving you, grabbing you, hitting you. They have no regard for your physical space. But vulnerable narcissists, otherwise often referred to as covert narcissists, they cross emotional boundaries. They overstep and hit you emotionally, blaming you, guilting you, dismissing you. They have no regard for your emotional space. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. Boundaries may often be crossed in ways that can be so subtle that we don't even realize it, especially when you're dealing with a covert narcissist. But the impact is massive. Today, I want to give you 3 steps that you can take to help set better boundaries with a covert narcissist. Now, I do want to tell you this. These 3 steps are not going to magically fix your relationship. Okay, they aren't going to all of a sudden cause the covert narcissist to get what you're saying and start treating you better. That's not the point of these 3 steps. These boundaries are not for them. These boundaries are for you. To give you the space to be the person you want to be and to quit taking all of these emotional hits from this abusive person in your life. So whether this is your spouse, your parent, your adult child, your coworker, your friend, no matter what the relationship is, these 3 steps create a buffer around you, giving you some kind of emotional breathing space, if you will. So what are these 3 steps? They are to 1, acknowledge their feeling in a simple statement that's focused on them. Now, you might already think I've lost my mind, but I'm going to explain this, so bear with me. Number 2, state your boundary, your feeling, in a simple statement that's focused on you. And number 3, redirect the conversation in a simple, positive direction. Now, I want to note that I've used the word simple in all 3 of these steps. You see, the fewer words you use when you're trying to set a boundary, the better off you're going to be. Now, let's look at step 1. Why acknowledge their feelings? Haven't we spent a whole lifetime trying to care for their feelings, validate their feelings, support their feelings? All right. Do you consider yourself a compassionate person? That's a question for you. And I think many of us would say yes to that. But being compassionate is about you, not about them. We are compassionate because we are a compassionate person. We are respectful because we are a respectful person. That's about who we are, not whether the other person deserves it or not. So this step of acknowledging their feelings in a very simple statement, one simple statement, this step allows you to be the compassionate person that you want to be. It allows you to be the caring person that you are trying to be in this world. Okay? So and I'm going to give you some examples in just a minute. Number 2 is state your boundary. Well, I've made comments on my podcast before that has said, hey, don't voice your boundaries to them because you're just giving them the game plan. I mean, if I voice my boundary to a covert narcissist, I can just completely expect that they are going to do the exact thing I'm asking them not to do. And again, we're going to talk through this and I'll give you some examples. If you are out of the relationship, no contact, or at the very least quite distant from them, then it's easier to not voice your boundary directly to them. But many of you out there listening to this, I know you're still in the marriage. You're still in the home. You're still trying to figure out how to keep peace with this person. Or maybe you're divorced, but you're co-parenting young children, so you still have a lot of interaction with them. Or maybe this is your parent and they're still a part of your life. Well, then you're going to need to voice boundaries to an extent. Now, don't expect the covert narcissist to automatically follow them, okay? I don't want to give you a false impression here. You aren't voicing them for that person. You are voicing them for you. And I'm going to explain this as we go into the examples. Now, the third step is to redirect in a positive direction. And you go, okay, how do I redirect them? When you're dealing with a covert narcissist, you end up in these circular conversations. And we've talked about that a lot on these podcast episodes. And they throw these hooks out that just bait you, and they bait you, and they bait you until you're on this hamster wheel going round and round for hours, making absolutely no progress. So I do want to give you the suggestion of having a few safe topics. Now, what do I call safe topics? These are topics that you can talk about with them, that they like to talk about, and covert narcissists love to hear themselves talk. So these are safe topics that you don't really have to engage in. Topics that are easy to avoid conflict. So maybe it's about their work and how's work going, or about current events, at least ones that you don't feel passionate about or that you're willing to not voice your opinion about. Let them talk about the current events. Maybe it's their hobbies, future plans, some vacations coming up or holidays. How about food and what food they're eating or what they like or what, path they want to take, or cooking or nature. Find some safe topics that are your topics to kind of your go-to when you're on that unsafe territory of a potential circular conversation. Now, let's take these 3 steps, and I want to put them into some specific examples of boundary violations from a covert narcissist. Now, boundary violations from a covert narcissist, I said, they're not physical violations. They're emotional violations. So the first one I'm going to talk about is emotional dumping. I've talked before in my podcast about being a dumpster for their emotions. You have a right to not carry the burdens of another person to that level. You have a right to not pay the price for their emotional struggles. There's a difference between caring for someone's struggles, supporting them, and paying a price for the struggles they have. Covert narcissists dump their problems on you, their anxieties, their dramas, and they shoot down any comfort that you offer, any ideas that you share. Nothing's ever good enough. And so you circle and circle and circle in this mud pit of their emotional drama. Now, a natural boundary with a non-narcissistic person. People who have empathy, they recognize the way that their emotions affect those around them. And so they will guard against dumping their feelings like this, like what I'm talking about. They don't do this. They might express some frustrations, but there's going to be some form of protection around it. Maybe they limit the amount of time this takes, and they apologize for expressing their frustration. They might thank you for listening and for caring. And they say, hey, I know you can't do anything to fix this, but I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. I just, sorry for expressing all this, but thank you. This is somebody who has a natural boundary. Somebody who, they don't expect you to fix everything for them. They put effort into moving on, and they might even voice some of their own ideas for moving forward. They definitely will listen with gratitude to the ideas that you are offering, to help them. So these are natural boundaries. These are boundaries with people who are empathetic people, not narcissists. They don't trap you for hours in this exhausting and draining monologue, shooting down anything you say and wallowing in their self-pity. So you don't have to purposefully set a boundary with them. They already have it. These are natural boundaries. But covert narcissists are not like this. They frequently dump their problems and their burdens onto you, things that you can't help with, but they expect you to provide this endless comfort. They rattle on and on about the problem, waiting for you to join them in their misery. Waiting for you, if your reaction's not big enough, they're waiting for you to have a big enough reaction to the problems that they're having. And this can go on seemingly forever. They never realize the drain that this has on you. And maybe they don't even realize that, you don't want to be in a bad mood too. They can stay in this dumping mode for extended periods of time. And if you try to shift it in a positive direction, they shoot you down. If you express potential solutions, they always have a reason why it won't work, or a snide remark about it. Well, that won't work. That's a dumb idea. Aren't you listening to me? This is so bad. Or if you're throwing out some suggestions for them, they might say, well, why should I try to fix it? It isn't my fault that this happened. And they still go around and around. They have no interest in putting any effort into fixing things. So you try to offer some encouragement, a positive perspective. Well, they might even just tell you then, well, you always try to focus on just the positive things. What's the point of that? They might ultimately conclude, you don't even care that I'm having a bad day. Now, this is even after you've spent hours trying to support them and maybe even multiple days on this journey. They simply add you to their list of why life sucks right now and in fact put you at the top of it. Emotional dumping from a covert narcissist puts you in a no-win situation, and you've got to put a boundary. You've got to put a boundary in place for this situation. This is where I want to give you the example of boundary setting. So in this situation, when you've got all of this going on, here's those 3 simple steps. Number 1, acknowledge their feeling. Say something very simple of, I hear that you are feeling down, and I do hate that for you. Number 2 is you set the boundary for you. That boundary might sound like, I'm not equipped to help you with this. If you need some time to vent, I can give you that for maybe about 10 minutes or so. Any more than that really pulls me down and makes me feel depressed and ugly inside. I don't care for that. Number 3 would be to move this in a positive direction. I'd love to hear about something positive that happened today, though. How was your day and what happened that was good? Okay? Step 1, acknowledge their feeling. That allows me to stay the compassionate person that I am. I hear you're feeling down, and I do hate that for you, which is true. Number 2, though, is putting that boundary in place. I don't like to feel depressed and ugly. If you need to vent, it's okay, but put a time limit on that. And just say it, again, very simply. Don't expect them to honor it, okay? You're going to need to be a broken record on this, or you then just need to walk away. But here's where the internal boundaries kick in. So the boundaries you have expressed to them is one thing. Now here's the internal boundary. When I do walk away, I don't need to feel guilty. I can know that I showed up for them compassionately. I can know that I cared for their feelings. But I do not need to play the fixer role. I do not need to be the hero. So my personal boundaries that I voice to me, I will not jump in and be the hero. I will let their feelings be their responsibility. I will trust the support that I offer and not feel bad for walking away. I will not stay engaged until they are feeling better. This can keep you trapped for hours. I hope this helps you to make sense of when you're in these relationships and you are going to have to voice something, that it's okay to voice the care and compassion in a simple statement, and then your boundary as well. I want to give another example of how to use this. So guilt tripping is another, boundary violation by a covert narcissist. They make you feel guilty for not showing them enough attention, for wanting to spend time with your own friends and family, for doing any activities of your own. It's normal to do activities that don't include your spouse. It's normal to have time with your other friends or with your own family, or even just time for yourself. It's normal to do things like go to a book club or play pickleball or sing in a choir or work out in a gym, watch a movie with your friends. These are normal activities that don't need to magically disappear just because you got married. Unless you married a covert narcissist, and then they end up disappearing because it's the only way you can keep peace. Covert narcissists want all of your attention for them and only them. They don't want to share you with friends, your own family, your own kids, even your own pets. So I give you an example is when I went to the symphony with my friend. I had a friend who had bought tickets to the symphony for my birthday. Now, it was before my birthday. It was about a week before my birthday that the symphony was playing something that I really liked and she really liked. And so she bought me tickets. And this became a big, long, drawn out ordeal. And I knew he was going to be mad about it, that I was going. And he told me, well, you never go to things with me, which wasn't true. He was sullen and he grumpy. I wanted to take you out for your birthday. Well, my birthday was still a week away. There was still plenty of time for this. But he's just making this big scene with all this drama. So it sure made me feel bad for going out with my girlfriend. Well, this is where boundaries are needed. So what does that boundary look like? In that moment, looking back now I didn't have the knowledge then that I have now. In that moment, when you're being made to feel bad for spending time with your friends, here's how those 3 steps work. Number 1, acknowledge their feelings. I hear that you are feeling down. That's it. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. I hear that you are feeling down. But the second step is state your boundary. I don't like to feel bad for doing things with my friends. Now, I'm not putting this in a way that says you are making me feel bad, because that's just fire with fire. That's just going to escalate things. Part of this goal is to de-escalate things. So I'm going to keep it focused on me. I don't like to feel bad for doing things with my friends. Or I don't like to feel guilty for wanting to do my own activities sometimes. Both of those statements are very acceptable statements. The third step is forward momentum, forward direction. It sounds like you want to do something together. So how about we plan something for next weekend? What would you like to do? Something that redirects the focus in a positive direction. How does this play out for you personally then? So the personal boundaries on the inside, I will not feel bad for doing this activity then with my friend. I'm not going to go sit at the symphony and spend the entire time worried about his reactions, feeling guilty for being there, thinking about, I should have done it this way. I should have said it that way. That's my personal boundary. I will not focus on him while I'm spending time with my friends and with my family. I will focus my time with my friend while we are together. I will not give my partner my mental and emotional space while enjoying time with my friend. These are the personal boundaries that play out inside of you. I'll give you one more example here before we wrap this up. When I would lay on the floor and pet my dog, he would make me feel bad for that. Like he would then come and lay his head on my lap and take my hand from my dog and put it on his head. Okay, and he would say things like, well, when do I get that kind of attention? He would wiggle his way between me and the dog and say, I'm here. Funny thing is that he would call the dogs jealous. I don't think so. All right. But personal boundary here. The boundary that I need to voice to him in these situations, the boundaries we need to say is, number 1, acknowledge. I hear that you feel left out. Okay. Plain and simple. Number 2, state your boundary. I don't like to feel bad for giving my dog some love. Just that simple. Number 3 is redirect. I would love to hear about your day. How was work? Now, your personal boundary that you internalize, I will not change my way of interacting with my pet. And I will not feel bad or guilty for giving my pet attention. These simple boundaries, I hope, give you the tools for ways that you can interact with this person that is true to yourself. It honors the compassion and care that you have inside of you, but it also allows you to value your own self-care. This is crucial in this healing journey that we're all on, and I really, truly hope that you are hearing what I'm saying here. Now, these tools can be incredibly helpful for your own children and teenagers too. Help them to learn to express their own needs and boundaries this way. These are simple statements. This conversation might start in regards to their friends. Maybe they practice it there. Don't practice by starting it with the hardest person in your life to set boundaries with. They need to practice stating these with people who are safe before they can feel comfortable enough to voice them with people that do not feel safe. Give them the space, in fact, to practice this with you. Now, on that same note, as you work on boundaries, don't start by setting boundaries with the hardest person in your life. Do this with people who will honor and respect you and your needs. You'll be surprised how easy these conversations go, but don't expect them to go so easy with a covert narcissist. but the extra practice will help you to stay clear on what it is you want to express. I do offer both group and individual healing programs, and we talk a lot in those programs about setting boundaries. So I hope that you can come take advantage of this offer that's out there. You can find me on my website at covertnarcissism.com. I also am putting together a PDF for examples of boundary setting that I'm going to make available to my mailing list. So go to that website, join the mailing list so that you don't miss this. I'm going to send it out about a week after this podcast releases so that everybody has an opportunity to get on the mailing list before I send that out. So just know that that's coming. Please jump on and do that. If you miss it, send me an email. I'll get you a copy anyways. Renee, RENEE, at covertnarcissism.com. Now, I do want to take 1 minute here and be honest with you. Do I think that this is going to magically fix the relationship you are in? Absolutely not. This isn't about fixing your marriage or your relationship with a narcissistic parent. This is about you. This is about you being able to acknowledge their feelings with your compassion. This is about you being able to state your needs and your boundaries and moving forward. This is not about finding the right way for them. It is about finding the right way for you. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism podcast. If you are struggling with covert narcissism in your life, I help people to heal from covert narcissistic abuse. If you are struggling with the isolation, the self-doubt, and the obsessive thinking, then this is the program for you. I offer both group and individual options. This is live, personalized coaching that is specific to covert narcissism. Reach out to me anytime. You can find me at my website, covertnarcissism.com. I'm not a therapist and you are not a victim. I am a coach and you are a survivor. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson and the Covert Narcissism podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. It does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.